Hey, everybody, welcome to Love and Reload, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I am so excited to be here with Dawn Mugavero, Senior Manager, Talent Mobility at Toyota. Dawn, how are you today? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Ben. I am fantastic. Thank you.
It's Friday. I think we are all ready for the weekend. I am thrilled. Where in the world are you, Dawn?
I am in Plano, Texas, which
Plano.
is just north of Dallas.
I love Plano. And are you in the office right now?
I sure am. Yes. Typically not in the office these days, but try to get here at least once a week or so.
Nice. Yeah, I'm in the office too. I feel like we're the only people in the world right now in the office.
Yeah. My floor is empty. There's no one here. It's just me.
I want to ask you about that, right? And work from home, remote work, and how that plays into global mobility and everything. We got people tuning in right now. I'm just going to ask you right now, as you're tuning in, I'm going to do a quick little poll. Leave your name, your company, and are you in the office or working from home? I want to know. Just a quick little straw poll, I mean, this isn't no official ballots, no Scantrons, all right? Just quick little straw poll in the comments. Just want to know your name, where you're at, and if you're working from home or in the office. And let's just see, we got some people checking in here. We got Steve Miser, Hampton Road. Steve's a driver, so I guess, are you in the office if you're in your truck? I don't know.
Your mobile office.
There you go. There you go. That to me is the dream, by the way, Dawn, is to be able to like get a big old RV and like to take the show on the road and like do Love and Relo and go down to Plano, see Dawn, do a little interview, and then hop
that would be great,
right? Yeah. Like a Madden Cruiser, if you remember John Madden.
That's right. That's because he wouldn't fly. That's right.
Yeah. Maybe I can get Outback to sponsor my RV,
How fun would that be?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, is that the future of work? I mean, I go to conferences and trade shows. And, forget flying. I'm just gonna drive.
Yeah.
Maybe Toyota will outfit me with like a driverless RV. Maybe.
Oh, driverless RV. Okay. All right.
Think about this just for one moment, okay? Because here we are. We're just going to ideate. It's Friday. We might have something to drink right now. I don't even know what you're doing out there, but let's just open our mind a little bit more, okay? So, and shout out to Janet out there in Colorado with her little grandbaby Penny out there. Hope you're enjoying it, Janet. Miss you out here. But we're going to open our mind just a moment. Imagine it's Friday. It's 4:00. It's coming on quitting time. Imagine we just go home. We get in the RV, we uncork a bottle of wine, we throw on a movie or two, we go to sleep, we wake up, and boom, we're in the Grand Canyon or something, right? And you spend the weekend at the Grand Canyon, and you say, all right, family, it's Sunday night, better be heading back now. Hop back in there, throw in a little football or something, wake up, and you're back in Plano, Texas at work on Monday morning.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not bad. Yeah. I mean, a driverless RV. I mean,
I think you're onto something, Ben.
You let me know if the senior executives at Toyota need to see me. I will hop in my RV. I'll be down there in about 15 hours. All right.
Yeah. Well, we've got the RV part down. Driverless, we're still working on that piece.
There you go. This is great. Let's see here. We got people checking in again. I want to know where you're at out there, and if you're working from home or in the office. We've got David Croft checking in.
My friend David Croft. Yes.
Yeah. There's
Hi, David.
See, isn't this nice? We get together with friends, kind of like the old days here. Let's see here. We got Rob Zeitz checking in from Air Inc. What's up, Rob? Janet Turner. Now, Janet's kind of funny because Janet's like a digital nomad. She says working remotely wherever I can. She's been working from Florida, from the Poconos in Pennsylvania, from Colorado. I mean, she's working from everywhere.
Yeah.
She's not working from anywhere. She's working. Yeah.
Good for her. Good for Janet.
Doesn't that sound nice? Stephen Meyer in the mobile office. There you go, Stephen. Francine Dresty. Hi, everyone from VIP Corporate Housing. Work from home. All right, Francine. Francine, I want to know what's for dinner this weekend. What kind of Italian specialties are we whipping up this weekend? Carrie Hatfield. Hi, Dawn and Ben.
Oh, Carrie. My good friend Carrie. Hi, Carrie. She and I have just been trying to connect for the longest. I miss you, Carrie.
She's in Dallas right there with theirs,
Yeah,
working from home.
yeah.
There you go. Let's see, Jenny Halverson. Hi, Dawn.
Oh, hi, Jenny.
See that in her home office? Isn't this nice? We get to just
Gosh,
reconnect.
a lot of my old friends that I haven't seen or connected with in quite a while.
Hit that little applause button, that like button. Hit that little, throw a heart out there to Dawn. You know, if you're watching right now, let us know where you're coming to us from. Jack from Stryker and Philly, working from home. However, always working from home. Jack was early on this trend here. He's a millennial. Nathan Brinker, Nathan from Scottsdale, Bristol Globe Mobility, home. What's up, Nathan?
Yeah.
Good to see you, buddy. Let's see here. Josh Connor working from home.
Josh Connor. Yes, Josh is part of our team.
That's awesome.
Part of our Weikert team. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Kristen McLaughlin, Atlanta, working from home. Lindsay Altman. See, I told you we're the only people working from home. Anybody out there in the office right now?
No, and Lindsay, I can't believe all these people that I know.
Yeah.
We work with Lindsay from Chase. Absolutely. Hi, Lindsay.
See this? Look at this. All right. Amanda Rakowski, hi from Phoenix. Jamie Massler, cheers from sunny, warm Mississippi. My buddy Will Keating, Carrier, Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, work from home. Dawn, it has been many moons since I visited you.
Yeah. Oh, fond memories of my office in Torrance. Yes.
So you used to be in Torrance, and you have relocated, I hear, right, Dawn? So how long have you been in Plano?
You know, we are really enjoying Plano. Very different from California, but different can be good. So we are enjoying the wide open spaces as opposed to the concrete jungle. I enjoy not driving the 405 every day. So it's all good. Yeah, we're loving it.
So you came to Plano along with a lot of other people from Toyota. How many people in total relocated from that Torrance office to the new world headquarters?
So it wasn't just Torrance. So our group move actually included all of our folks from the Torrance campus, which in total at the time, we had about 6,000 folks on that campus.
Wow.
And then we also had a large number of folks come from our manufacturing headquarters in Erlanger, Kentucky. And then we also had a smaller group of folks come from the New York region. So in total, we had just over 3,000 team members relocate from all three of those locations.
How long does that take? Like, I want to talk about group moves today. So if you got group move questions, ask Dawn. We're going to answer all your questions out here. But I got to ask, how in the heck do you eat the elephant, as they say, right? How do you move 3,000 people? How long did that take? How long did it take, first of all?
Well, the announcement was made in April of 2014.
Okay.
We had our first small group of folks move that following summer, so the summer of 2015. The majority of the team members moved in late 2016 into 2017. So it really kind of went in phases, but majority of them moved in 2017.
So let me ask you, and I've never executed a group move of 3,000 people. I bet not many people have. What goes into planning that? Help us understand, help us wrap our heads around that.
Yeah, well, and I will say, and a big shout out to all of my friends out there who are part of the broadcast today that were part of our relocation management company team. Because without them, we would not have been nearly as successful as we were. And really credit to them for helping us kind of think this through. We'd never gone through a group move, so it was completely new to us. And to make it even more challenging, most of the folks that were part of the group move or the mobility team were new to mobility. So it wasn't like we were drawing from a lot, including myself. We weren't drawing from a depth of experience.
What did you done before? What did you done before that point?
Yeah, so I've always been in human resources, but with Toyota, prior to the mobility position, I was actually out in the field supporting HR functions in our location in Northern California, and then our location in San Antonio. And during that was about 4.5 years. And during that time, my family was in Southern California. They never moved with me. So I was commuting back and forth.
Oh, wow.
So ultimately, the only position I could get into to get back to Torrance was this mobility position, which I knew nothing about, but it was a way to get back home.
Right.
So I took that position, and sort of the rest is history. And then my team, most of them, again, were either assigned to the group move or had been only with the team for a little bit of time. So we were all new to it. And in some ways that sort of helped a little bit because we didn't have a lot of preconceived notions about what we could or should do. So we just sort of went into it and said, all right, what do we need to do? And with the help of our wonderful RMC partners, really managed to put together a great program. And I think what helped is that we didn't just have one relocation company. We actually had 4 that were helping us, which, that could be, a little bit problematic as well. But again, to their credit, they all came together, collaborated as one team, learned from each other, frankly. And we all sort of came together knowing what we had to accomplish. And developed plans, and part of it was, pre-planning, but it was also sort of learning as we went along as well.
As you're talking, my mind's going in a million directions here. So I'm going to try to ask all these questions here. So first, I love the fact that you point out that your lack of experience in global mobility actually kind of was it felt free probably because you didn't have some of the things you had less worries. I would almost think you'd have less worries because you have less things in your brain that you're trying to reconcile. And I think that's really interesting because it's really, what I've noticed is it's amazing what you can accomplish when you just take all the energy most people spend worrying and you kind of just don't have to at that. And then you're working on 100% bandwidth towards the problem. So I think that's fascinating. But then you said that you had 4 RMCs engaged on this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you had lots of firepower dedicated to this, right?
Right.
But I got to ask, I mean, that's a lot of RMCs. That's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, so to speak.
Yeah.
What is the thought process behind that? And what were maybe the positives and the negatives of that process?
Yep. So it wasn't planned that we had 4 RMCs, but to give a little context to the group move and the fact that we had these different entities, on the heels of our crisis, our Toyota's crisis in 2008, one of the things executive leadership identified as being a gap is the fact that, particularly within North America, all of the Toyota organizations were operating completely independently of one another. So the sales and marketing group out in Torrance was independent of our manufacturing group in Erlanger, Kentucky, was independent of our public relations or governmental affairs group in New York. And those disconnects are what led in part to some of the things that occurred through that crisis or really resulted in that crisis. So the decision was made that we really needed to unify the organization. So we brought together all of those entities into one headquarters in Plano, Texas. But back at the time, again, as I say, we were all operating independently of one another, completely separate organizations, completely separate infrastructures. The only thing we had in common was that, Toyota was on our paycheck.
Wow.
So as a result of that, each of us had our own relocation management company that was supporting each of those individual entities. So as we came together, we continued to use those same RMCs that were supporting those various organizations. So that's how we came to have 4. What was due to that fact.
That makes sense. And then did you, I mean, so then you ultimately, I'm sure, kind of consolidated some of that as well after the fact, right?
Some of that, yeah, absolutely. We're now actually down to 3, so we've reduced it by 1. But we are a large organization, and it does make some sense when we look at the complexities of our operations across the entire country. And in fact, we'll include Canada and Mexico in that as well. And that level of support really is necessary. But I think the other thing, and probably more important to us, is as we worked with those various RMCs, and as we all kind of worked together on the group move, we recognized the value of having different schools of thought, and each of those groups brings a different set of strengths, a different set of opportunities, and together it really makes a good balance for us.
I love it. I love it. This is really fascinating. If you're listening to this right now, I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your questions for Dawn. I know that I probably don't even have all the right questions to ask. I'm looking at people in the comments here, some of which have executed group moves, some of which haven't. A lot of us on the service provider side have. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that if you're watching right now, as well as some maybe best practices that you've learned along the way. I'm going to give some shout outs here. My buddy Ryan Beal, back still in Florida. Hey, Ryan, it's good to see you, buddy. Ryan's a first responder down there. Amanda Rakowski, working from wherever. There you go, Amanda. Cross country Ben. That's that's the aspect. I'd love to be transcontinental. I mean, I don't know if I can get a floating autonomous RV, but
All right, now you're getting crazy, Ben.
I mean, it's Friday afternoon. I mean, that's what happens, Dawn. Michael Smith, working from everywhere. It's good to see you, Michael. Michael's a friend of the show, too. Ed Cohen, hi from San Diego, waiting for the rain. First time since April. Oh, my gosh. Hey. Yeah, man. Pray for California.
Absolutely.
It's hot and dry out there, man. They need the rain. Francine Dresty, I'm trying to lose the COVID-20 girl. Who you telling? So there's nothing super exciting cooking over here. Hey, throw Francine your favorite. I need them too. Throw Francine your favorite healthy dishes. I keep reverting back to the same old, and it ain't working for me. So I got to try something different. Lindsay Childers, hi all. Lindsay had some great comments yesterday's show. Mark Britt, hi from Georgia. Hey, Mark. Sean Ireland, hi, Ben and Dawn. Dawn, it was such a great experience getting to interact with you and your employees years ago in the Torrance, California office. We will never forget it.
Yeah. Good times.
Yeah. Hey, Sean, good to see you. Jim Schneider, hi, Dawn. Good to see you and hear your thoughts on the group move. Jim Schneider. So let's see here. Brian Justice, how was it getting the RMCs to work together? I think that's a great question.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you do that?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a great question. And again, every time I'm asked to speak on the group move experience, that is the one thing that I absolutely make sure that I emphasize, because it was quite amazing that these groups really, again, competitors, came together, supported us in such a tremendous way, and I think why that happened and why it was so successful. In part because Toyota values our business partners. When we engage and develop relationships with our business partners, we really look to those groups as an extension of our internal team. And so when we're interacting with them and when we're doing things like planning, it really is, we are one team. We are all one Toyota team, and they are an equal member of that group, of that team. And so, the ability for them to bring their thoughts and really enhance that whole process, I think they welcome that and appreciate that. And I think it just made that whole process work just so well, because we were equal partners in that process.
I love what you're saying there, Dawn, about being equal partners. And I'll be honest with you, as a service provider, as a supplier partner, that is one of the things that I always look for in a client. I don't always have my druthers, but that's one of the things I look for, right, in the client, is that true partnership and that two-way street. But why is it
Absolutely.
important to you, the client? Because I mean, so often, especially with manufacturing companies, I'll be honest. I don't know. I'm not talking about Toyota, but I'm talking about my other experiences. It's a very much a one-way street, and it's always super
Hmm.
long net payment terms, and very much you're going to do what we say
Yeah.
and very top
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
Why is that so important to you and Toyota?
Yeah, and I guess it is important to both, right? I mean, just Toyota's culture is one that is extremely collaborative. Um, we are all about relationships, and the importance of those relationships. And I think for me personally, both in my personal life as well as my work life, I think good relationships are the foundation of all that we do. Um, so I really think it stems from both my personal beliefs and work ethic, as well as just that's in our DNA within our company.
I couldn't agree with you more about good relationships. I mean, contracts are, I guess important, if something goes sideways, but you shouldn't rely on a contract. You need to have the strength of that relationship in order to,
Absolutely.
this is really interesting. We got tons of great comments. Keep them coming. I want to make sure we get all your comments and questions answered here. Let's see here. Let's try to stay. Oh gosh, we got some really good ones here. Where did old Chris, lose you? Chris Roberts, where was yours at, buddy? He had a great question there, and he said, "Oh gosh, all right, let me see here. I'm gonna try to keep it all straight, Dawn."
Okay.
Jack Jampel says, "Hey Jack, good to see you." Jack says, "How do you collect data across 3 RMCs for overall
Yeah.
company reporting, example, reload costs?"
Yeah. Great
That's always
question,
so
Jack.
practical.
Oh, great question. And we absolutely struggle with that. And what we've done, and this has been a project that we've been working on, gosh, probably for the last 12 months or so. So yes, all of the RMCs and our tax provider all submit data to us, right? So it's coming from really 4 different sources. Um, and it's all great, but it's a snapshot of that one entity. So we have built a data analytics tool in which all 4 of those key organizations are pushing data to one tool. So we're consolidating it all into one analytics tool, and we're able to report out that consolidated information. Still a work in progress. We're not there yet, but
I
yeah,
I
that was
love this
tough.
idea. This is so funny because we didn't even talk about this before the pre-show, but this is fascinating. So many people are fascinated by it. Chris Roberts, super smart cat over there at Airs, says this is so fascinating that you and your team made this work with 4, now 3 RMCs. I'm definitely a fan of collaboration and bringing diverse thought together. What kinds of positive changes did this collaboration create, both for your team and partners?
What kinds of positive changes?
And I'm gonna let that sit and marinate
Yeah.
for a second because Jack also makes an interesting observation. The RMCs also probably wanted to shine so that they may hopefully become Toyota's sole RMC one day. That's where my mind went too, right? You have 3 or 4 competing, and they're all pushing data into one data analytics tool or whatever. And I feel like I know that very quickly I can see differences when people are all doing the same thing, whatever that thing may be, that task or that service or whatever. In my opinion, there's always 1 or 2 that's like better than the other 1 or 2, and you're just like, gosh,
Hmm.
And so if they're, what
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that and what Chris is saying about collaboration and
Yeah, so I think the positive changes, some of the positive things that have come from that are, one, again, we get such diverse thought, and from that, we are ultimately able to navigate through some very challenging things, but get to a point where, gosh, we've considered a lot of different inputs, and together we're making these decisions, and at the end, ultimately we're going to serve our team member in a much better way. So just being able to understand that the dynamic of, okay, it's not about our egos, it's not about, okay, we want to be the sole provider for Toyota. I don't doubt for a moment that every one of them would prefer to be that sole provider, but I also know that if you were to go to each one of those RMCs, the experience that they all had and what they gained from this experience in having to work together in the way that we asked them to brought a lot of opportunity for them to learn and grow and push themselves outside of their comfort zones. And really, hopefully they took some things from that they can then apply to some of their other clients. But it really is about, what are we trying to achieve here? Let's all come together. Let's be equal partners in this, and ultimately we're going to get to where we need to go in the best way that we can.
Awesome. Awesome. Go ahead, hit that like button, by the way, and send out some positive vibes here. We've got some other great comments coming on. Lisa Ross, hi, Dawn. Hope you're doing well. It's great to see you on Love.
Oh, hi, Lisa.
Yeah, Lisa.
Good to see you too.
It's always fun when Lisa checks in. Erica Burton, hi, I'm rocking my Love and Relo shirt today. Thank you, Erica. All the proceeds from that go to 100% of the proceeds go to Move for Hunger. I think we might have a few shirts left too, so DM me if you're looking for some shirts as well. Let's see, Carrie Hatfield's got a question. I like this question. Did you create special policies for the group move? Carrie says.
Good question, Carrie. We did. We took our baseline was our policies that came out of the sales and marketing group, which were fairly generous to begin with. But we used that as our baseline, and then we started to look at, and again, with the help of our wonderful RMCs, what was missing from those that really needed to be considered that would be different from a standard relocation. So we did a lot of things like we enhanced our spousal employment assistance benefits, for example, because in the group move we were looking more at the entire family than just the team member. And not that we shouldn't always do that, but it was ever more important in this group move because we were really asking people to make some sacrifices in their personal lives. And this was all new. I mean, there were most of the folks that we relocated had never relocated for the company before. So this was all new. And each of those groups had their individual challenges. The folks from California, well, they were all excited about the fact that they could buy more house for their money.
Right.
The downside for them was, gosh, it's going to be a completely different lifestyle change for us.
Culture shock, potentially.
Culture shock, exactly. In contrast, our folks from Kentucky, housing wasn't as much of an issue, right? Because it was fairly equivalent, and their lifestyle was very, very similar as well. So it was just different challenges. So we really looked at this much more holistically than just the team member, and really looked at what resources did we need to create and implement so that the families were involved. We did a lot of networking events. We created a Facebook page.
Okay.
We had on-site move centers where the families could come, get information, ask questions. So really enhancing that whole family aspect.
So the move centers, question on that, like, is that something that was staffed by service providers? Was that something staffed by HR? I mean, or was it just kind of, I mean, how did that work?
Staffed by our RMCs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. So you kind of, would they be like a day or a week where you'd have them in and they would do kind of a thing, or was it
they were open 5 days a week, all day long. And we actually even did considered some weekend hours when that was necessary as well. So yeah, no, they staffed them full time.
How long were they there?
Let's see, when did we start? Summer of 2015, we started the move centers. And
they were there for 2 years?
Yep.
2 years, 5 days a week. Wow. Okay. Yep. All right. I like it.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's a great idea. I mean, I guess with that many people moving, it makes sense.
Yeah. And they were well utilized.
On a side note here, just for one moment, we're going to take a break and talk food here. Janet's got some suggestions for Francine: spaghetti squash with eggplant puttanesca. That does sound lovely, Jan. You're gonna have to make
Oh,
that for me sometime. Come
delicious.
soon as COVID's done, I'm taking my Madden bus and I'm going down to see Janet in Orlando, and we're gonna get some of that brick oven pizza and some spaghetti squash eggplant puttanesca. And then Sandra Clary's got another great. If you want to just go the entirely other direction, she's got the Ben and Jerry's
Ben and
diet,
Jerry's.
Francine. I'm very familiar. I am the Ben and the Ben and Jerry's diet. So all about that. Let's see here. Tom's got a great question. We were talking about housing just now, Dawn.
Uh-huh.
And my mom lives in Plano, so she's felt the Toyota effect, okay, in Plano, right?
Yeah.
Which is actually good because she owned a home before y'all moved down there. And in fairness, a lot of companies have been moving to Plano lately.
Absolutely.
Do you know some of the ones that have moved to Plano offhand?
In the area, State Farm, Liberty Mutual, FedEx, not their headquarters, but there was a lot of movement at that time, and still some. Yeah.
So it's such a hot area. Tom's got a great question. Tom Bruin, appreciate you, Tom. Tom's been checking in a lot with some fantastic questions. For the group move, homeowners with buyout population, I'm assuming that's what homeowners with buyout population. Were there any areas that the exodus was substantial enough to impact the local real estate market? And if so, did Toyota have to do anything creative with the GBO or BVO programs?
No, fortunately, the market was still strong at that time, and in California in particular, we had some concern. But I have to tell you, the homes sold so quickly. There were very few that we had to take into inventory, and when we did, those sold very quickly as well. So it really there did not seem to be a significant impact to the local markets.
What about inventory on the buy side in Plano?
Mm-hmm.
Did 3,000 professionals relocate into Plano, Texas over the course of 2 years impact the market from a inventory and a price side?
In terms of the market here in Plano?
Yeah. Did they find it harder to find a place or more expensive?
Yeah.
Was that a thing?
That was a concern. And what we did was we actually allowed team members to start that process 6 months prior to their effective date in the new work location. So we tried to, sort of space that out. There were some challenges, there was some competition, but not what folks had sort of conjured up in their mind in terms of that challenge. So it really turned out to be not significant, and everybody found the home that they wanted, and all was good.
I love what you said there. Is it wasn't as bad as what folks had conjured up in their mind. I mean, isn't that true about life? You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
it was a huge anxiety. People were, for the reasons everyone I think is asking these same questions. That's a lot of people. That's a big influx into one area. But this is a large area. When if you're not familiar with the area, it is quite expansive. And you go all the way from McKinney into Dallas, Richardson. It is a large area, and so the impact wasn't great. But the team members, when this was all announced, absolutely were so concerned about, am I going to be able to find a home? And are things going to appreciate significantly because of all of this movement into the area? And there was a little bit of that, certainly, but not significant.
Yeah, I think my mom's house has probably appreciated about $100,000 in about 10 to 13 years that she's had it. I think 13 years since she's had it, and I think a lot of it is having to do with, it's not a big, and I say that much and it's not that big of a house. I guess it's my other point in saying that it's like a 3-bedroom in Plano. And, just based off the Zestimate, right? Based off the Zillow's estimate, which check every few months, right? But I think a lot of it does have to do with the professionals moving to the area, and people just continue to find Dallas to be a destination they want to live in.
Yes.
And do you see that?
Yeah, absolutely. It really is a great community. Particularly if you have a family, the schools are fantastic. And one of the differences, I think, coming from California into Texas, for me personally, is there's really a genuine warmth with the folks here. They are very welcoming. I'll use the example that we go into Target, and at every turn there's a team member in Target, and they're always asking if they can help. They're just very warm, very welcoming, which is a little bit different than what we find in California. And that's in no way a criticism. It's just a different culture.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a fantastic area to raise a family for those reasons. Just a lot of good, strong sense of community, strong sense of family, good, solid values.
Love it. Love it. And I was born in Dallas, so I am partial. My mom lives in Plano. All my family was down there. Go ahead, hit that like button, leave a comment, leave a question in there for Dawn. Can't wait to hear it. I want to finish talking about group moves, about policies. Want to talk a little bit about crises, and not to be super heavy on a Friday afternoon. Okay. But we're going to have some fun with crises here and talk a little bit about what we've seen through the years. We've got a couple more questions here on group move policies and things. Nathan, what's up, Nathan? Nathan says, hi, Dawn. Did you offer any incentives for key team members that were reluctant to relocate?
So great question, Nathan. As a matter of fact, we offered incentives to every single team member who chose to move to Texas. So in addition to a very generous, comprehensive relocation package, there were financial incentives for folks that decided to make the move. Along with that, we did implement a 2-year repayment obligation. So the financial incentives were structured as such that they received half of that 60 days after they arrived in Texas. They received the second half of that 2 years after they arrived in Texas. So it really created that commitment to stay here for at least 2 years so that we had that business continuity. But they were fairly generous financial incentives that were provided to everybody.
Wow. That's great. I love the idea because we hear relocation repayback agreements, over 2 years, let's say. And this is interesting that there is a financial incentive distributed over 2 years with milestones. That's really interesting. That's fantastic. If you're considering a group move or you have clients that are doing a group move and you got a question you want to ask, Dawn seems to be a wealth of knowledge, having relocated 3,000 people, her and her team and her RMCs over the few years.
Yeah, so let me clarify that, Ben. So it was over 3,000 team members. When we count all of the family members, it was over 8,000 people that we actually relocated. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Let's see here. Jack has another policy question. Are your policies the same across the company? If not, how do you handle water cooler talk across division?
Yeah. So good question, Jack. And part of this group move, as I've mentioned, was really integrating all of our North American operations. So Plano is now our headquarters for North America. There is one mobility team, and that's my team. And we do have one set of policies that we utilize across the entire company.
Was that difficult migrating to that structure? I mean, was there some hearts and minds?
Oh gosh, yes, absolutely, absolutely. Because as I mentioned, again, we operated very independently of one another, and as you can imagine, we all had our own company cultures as well. We've got sort of all under the Toyota umbrella, but when we look at manufacturing and the complexities of those operations, the culture within that organization was very different than the sales and marketing, which tends to be a little more creative, if you will. All right, your right side, left brain. So on the manufacturing side, very focused on process, very strict around following process, keeping within the box. It's really about following that process. Sales and marketing side, we just fly by the seat of our pants. It's all about, all right, we know where we want to get. As long as we get there, it doesn't matter what path we follow. So really blending those cultures together was monumental. And we're still on that journey. We haven't completed that journey. So yes, it really was, again, that collaboration and that breakdown of silos, that breakdown of mindsets. Let's let our what we've done in the past go, and let's look at how we can come together and build something for the future. And so yeah, that part of it was very challenging, and really now looking at across the complexity of the organization. So we may have been dealing with sales and marketing folks in California, but now as a mobility team, now we're looking at all of these different types of operations, different needs across the organization. And our challenge was, how do we build a program, a consolidated program that's going to manage and support all of those different needs and strategies?
This is fantastic. This is great. And I appreciate you being candid about everything and helping us understand it. This is wonderful. People are really enjoying this conversation. As Michael Smith says, great conversation. Thank you for sharing. As we're talking about, building programs and evolving programs and everything, I want to talk about the evolution of mobility programs in light of the new work from home. We kind of led off this program with a straw poll of who's working from home, who's working in the office. And I want to talk a little bit about the way that trend is going to change mobility. I mean, what are you seeing right now as far as work from home? Let's just start there. What are you seeing right now as far as work?
Yeah. So I think we have sort of two paths, two parallel paths. We've got what we see right now as a result of COVID being one path, and how do we need to support that? The other parallel path is, where is all of this going to go eventually, and what does our future look like, and what do we need to be preparing for? While there's some integration there, there's also some distinction. So in the current situation, we're simply trying to manage through this crisis, understand where people are, and be somewhat flexible in what we're doing and where we're allowing them to work from. Now, Toyota as a company has taken a pretty firm stance that domestically, we're creating some flexibility for people to work from where they want to, with the understanding that they are going to be responsible for whatever tax implications may result from that.
Okay, let me ask this. Now, domestically, right? They can work from where they want. So if I live in Plano, Texas, but I say, you know what, gosh, my family lives in Oklahoma. I want to go up there and I want to work there. And I got great Wi-Fi, no problem, right? Toyota says, cool, that's great, but you have to presumably tell us you're in Oklahoma so we can withhold taxes appropriately.
Correct.
I mean, or is it more kind of like?
Yeah, no, we are expecting them to let us know where they're working, make that change, in Workday, so the appropriate payroll taxes can be taken care of. Or withheld, and then of course whatever tax filing responsibilities they'll have, that's really on them to manage. Now, internationally, we've taken a firm stance that is not permitted. So we are not permitting folks to go to Bermuda and work from there. So that's kind of
go to Thailand and chill on a little boat, and as long as I got strong Wi-Fi, I can't do that. Now, why is it different domestic U.S. versus international?
So the risks around permanent establishment, the risks around duty of care, the risks around taxation to the individual themselves, it's just much more complex. And the risk to the organization is greater when we look at those complexities and those compliance issues internationally versus domestic.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So now, and we got a couple people. Hey, I got to give Vinny a shout out. He just checked in here. He's rocking the Love and Relo shirt too. Hopefully, I think that's what that means. Erica, good to see you. Rob, making me miss client visits to Texas. I want to stay on this topic. Victoria does weigh in, though, on the homes thing. Homes in Plano, Frisco, McKinney, and surrounding cities immediately sprang up. Unfortunately for locals, prices increased so much the locals were priced out of the market. I know this firsthand. Yeah, I mean, values have been very strong.
I mean, that trend started before Toyota, in fairness.
I mean, there was people have been relocating there for a long time. So, yeah, for sure. So going back to this whole work from home thing. So that's kind of the stance on work from home.
Yeah.
What is the impact?
Yeah. So short term, the impact I would say is fairly minimal. Other than we're not doing a lot of relocations currently, not doing a lot of global assignments. So the impact is that we're seeing a decrease in activity, which translates then to some financial savings. So I think in the interim, in the short term, there are some gains and there's some flexibility that we've been able to initiate for folks, and they've been able to make some decisions and choices for themselves that they might not otherwise have been able to make. When we look at the long,
Well, no,
sorry, go
no.
ahead, but yeah.
I guess. Okay, I'm going to ask it now. I'm going to ask it now before we get into the long term. And Carrie's got a question. Robin's got a question. But before we get into the long term, I want to ask in the right now in the near term, since most people are kind of working from home most of the time, it seems like, are you hearing opinions from either the business or the employees that say this is really working or this isn't working?
Yeah. Good question, Ben. And I think, like most other companies, particularly those of us that really did not have a robust remote work program prior, which Toyota did not, I think a lot of the employees, a lot of our team members are loving the fact that they can work from home. So, productivity, spiked up. And I think that's was expected. I think long term, for a company like Toyota that places such value on collaboration and presence and that interaction, I don't think that level of productivity is sustainable across the entire organization. We've taught ourselves that we can do it, we can manage through that. But have we said, okay, gosh, this is our new way of working for our company? I don't think that's going to be the case, but it has provided us with some opportunities and some thinking in terms of different ways of working that we didn't have before.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Okay, and I think, and I'm hearing a lot of the same too from people, is like near term you might be getting more hours out of people. I know people at other, even automotive companies. I'm up here in Detroit, right? Who are saying, gosh, I'm logging in at 7 o'clock and I'm working till 7 p.m. and I'm taking a 15-minute lunch break because I'm going to my kitchen for a tuna sandwich. And they're working like crazy. But to your point, long term, losing some of that collaboration and some of that just incidental, organic kind of, ideas and stuff, they kind of come together through just bumping elbows with people. I think people are starting. I think that's going to be one of those things where we kind of like look at this and say, gosh, did I gain some attention and maybe efficiency, but lose some innovation, or did I lose some of that stuff, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and let's see, Jack Jampel. I know Jack's always got opinions about this, which is ironic because Jack works from home. But he says, I think what you will see is more flexibility, such as being in the office 3 days and 2 days from home. What do you think about those types of arrangements?
Yeah, I think that's exactly where we will probably land as well. Now, keep in mind, as many other manufacturing organizations, not everybody can work from home. So we've got a good, percentage of our population that, are reporting to production facilities. And whether that's our manufacturing group that's actually building the vehicles or our parts group that are managing parts, there's a lot of production type work across our organization. But when we look at the administrative functions, I agree with you, Jack. I think where we will land is some flexibility in working from home a portion of the time. I think the outstanding question still is, will that be within proximity of your work location, or will that sort of be, gosh, you can work, from anywhere within the US? And sort of knowing my company, I think we're going to land on, it'll probably be within proximity of your work location, but you'll have that flexibility to work from home a certain number of days a week.
And is that because the meetings might be called, kind of, gosh, we need to have everybody come in tomorrow because all hands on deck, we got to get this thing done. And if you live in New York and you commute to, Plano 3 days a week, and it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but there's an all hands meeting on Friday. That's not going to work. So we need the flexibility of knowing you're local. So now people aren't going to live anywhere in the U.S., but maybe they can live in Waxahachie now because they're only coming in 3 days a week, right?
Right. Absolutely. And we, when we did this group move, we built this fantastic billion-dollar campus that was absolutely designed to bring people together and to collaborate. Because that's who we are as an organization. And we don't want to lose sight of that. So for us, the challenge is going to be, how do we find that right balance and still be able to attract and retain talent? I think that's going to be the other significant part of all of this is, what are other companies going to be doing, and how can we continue to attract and retain the talent that we need?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it, right? Because at the end of the day, that's the whole role of global mobility, is getting the right people in the right place to do the right things. And it is demand driven. So you got to be competitive. Vinny from Nike. What's up, Vinny? Big hugs, man. I completely agree with Dawn. We are in the same boat. Collaboration is key for us, and we are looking forward to returning to the office. We will have flexibility when it comes to the amount of days in the office / home. Oregon just entered a 2-week pause, additional restrictions due to COVID.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, of the corporate folks who have weighed in kind of just recently, it sounds like everybody's kind of thinking the same thing. Now, does this mean, now let's talk long term. Let's wildly speculate, as we are prone to do here. What does this mean long term for global mobility? More, less, same? Different?
I think it's some of it will be the same, because I think some of the activity is driven on business strategies that haven't changed and probably won't change. When we look at our global assignment strategies, a lot of that is career development, really having to have that experience across the organization that you can only get with an international assignment. So some of that will remain the same. I think what is exciting is for us in mobility, how can we influence the organization now to think about some of these things differently? So where there's always going to be a place for those traditional relocations and traditional assignments, what can we do differently that might enhance the mobility function and enhance the experience? Because maybe it isn't always about having to physically be present somewhere. So, of course, a lot of discussion around virtual assignments.
Yeah. Virtual assignments, is that a real thing? Because people have been asking that before. Is that a real thing, or what? What are your thoughts on?
Yeah, it could be a real thing, right? And I think, again, it's really about what is the culture within your organization? What are your strategies? What are your operational needs? And how can we, again, from a mobility standpoint, look at that differently? So I think there is a place for a virtual assignment. We actually, I think we've been doing that. I don't think we recognized it as a virtual assignment, exactly. But now we're sort of putting a title to it.
Yeah, and I think that's the question is, right, how is that different from managing a team in another region? We're global mobility people, right? We're on the phone with other regions all the time, right? Am I on a virtual assignment, or do I just have people over there? So it's like, what is a global assignment? What is
it? Blurs the lines a little bit. Yeah.
Well, question: how do you see like a global assignment? Or I'm sorry, not global assignment. I apologize. How do you see a virtual assignment? What is the definition? What is
So for me, a virtual assignment would be an individual who is in one organization or one business unit in a position who has been dedicated to perform work for a division in a completely different geographical location, and that work can be done virtually. So the difference is, we're all sort of virtual teams now, but it's the dedication of that individual's work to a completely different division or business unit.
Okay, here come the ignorant questions, right? So, do they get paid And let's assume that we have clean cut divisions just by country, right? Let's say we have France and we have, US, right? So if I'm on a virtual assignment to France, and maybe this is maybe there's a poor analogy, and tell me if these countries don't make sense or anything, but say I'm on a virtual assignment as a marketing person for France, right? And, or maybe engineer, anyway, whatever. And am I getting paid out of France's payroll? Am I paying payroll taxes in France, or am I paying taxes in France or in the United States? Is there any immigration to be concerned about? I mean, help me understand some of these.
Good questions. And I think, again, a different set of considerations when you're looking at a domestic situation versus an international situation. International, I think you still have some complexities there, because if you're performing work on behalf of a foreign entity, you still have some of those compliance and complexities around tax, and how those things sort of play in. So I think there's still some work to be done around, right, how do you really structure that to mitigate some of those risks? So I don't know that the international virtual assignment is as clear in terms of how we could actually do that with mitigating some of those risks. Domestically, those same complexities don't exist. But for us, so I think Toyota is a little bit different in many of the conversations I've had with other companies. How we are structured from a mobility budget standpoint is different than most other companies. We have centralized our mobility budget. So when we initiate a relocation, or we initiate, whether it's a domestic or global assignment, the expenses for those are funded through a centralized budget.
Sure.
So that's a little bit different than, those individual budgets residing in the business units.
Rob Zeit says that's the $1 billion questions about virtual assignments, tax, immigration, labor laws, payroll. So, Rob, do I get $1 billion for asking the question or for solving the question? How about neither? I think so. But
to that point, Ben and Rob, one of the thoughts that I've had around this is the world is changing, and how we are working is changing significantly. In many ways, we're not going to go back. Yet, some of the laws and the regulations that exist now are inconsistent with supporting sort of this new way of doing work. So big question for me is, what is that going to look like? And will there be pressure exerted that will help change some of that? So some of these compliance issues, get lessened by some new regulations, some changes in the regulation, and how we look at these things moving forward.
So interesting. Valerie says, late to the party, but this is fascinating. Valerie, I agree. It's good to have you. Vinny says, virtual assignment, it is allowing an employee to perform a role without traveling. This is an option depending on the role, function, entity setup, etc. It is not for everyone, especially not for some high-level executives. Interesting.
Yeah.
We've got some good stuff here. Rob, it's a question mobility professionals could be well situated to help answer. Ben, if you get an RV, you can figure it out. I can't get the RV till I figure it out, Rob. Okay, give me the RV money and I'll just start working on it now. This is so funny. Victoria says domestically taxes and filing taxes each year after returning to the U.S. is extremely complicated for the employee. I dealt with this each year as the tax time came around. Definitely should not use a tax act. And Victoria is in Dallas, and she has a wealth of global mobility experience. So if you need a team in Dallas, you may give Victoria a call.
All right. Good to know.
Yeah, Chris Roberts says 2020 is the year of change for better or worse. On the other side of this crazy time, what is the one thing you would like to see change in mobility that we as an industry haven't been able to tackle as of yet?
Oh, wow.
I know, what a big question, right?
Yeah, well, there's two things that jump to mind that we, no matter what industry event you go to, you hear about how do we determine ROI, and how do we get talent development engaged? How do we make that integration, right, with mobility? And maybe the third thing is, how do we get a seat at the table? These are three things that we hear repeatedly over and over again, right? And I think this whole COVID situation, to some degree, really put a spotlight on mobility in ways that we've not been in the spotlight before. And I think our organizations look to us during these difficult times because we were sort of at the core of managing that team member mobility and really being in the front line of figuring out, how do we respond to this? How do we react to this? And so I think our platform it is so fantastic right now, much more so than it ever has been before, because of that. And so how do we take advantage of that?
Yeah.
As mobility
I
professionals.
I think if you figure out the ROI, the other two problems go away too, right? Because if you
Mhm.
could walk into your boss and say, for every dollar we spend in mobility, we make $1.20. He'd be like, well, let's spend more money on mobility. And then, hey, why don't you come sit at the table with me real
Yeah.
quick? And hey, let me introduce you to talent over here, because talent over here would love to talk to you about how we make more money. So that ROI question is so perplexing too. I did a session on this at Worldwide ERC in Boston. Was it Boston? No, maybe Atlanta. I don't know. Not too long ago. And I tell you what, it was the worst session I've ever done in my entire life. It was a total failure. I thought I was going to nail it. I brought in an academic from San Francisco. It was like supposed to be good. It was so terrible. And what I came to realize, people told me it couldn't be done. It couldn't be done. And I was like, oh, you guys are just, lazy, and, I'll figure it out. And I tell you what, they were right. I cannot figure it out to save my life.
Well, because I don't think there's any magic formula to it. I think determining what ROI is really within your company, identifying what is it we're trying to achieve through our mobility program, what are those important things, how do we measure them, and therefore, how do we determine what the ROI on that is? It's going to be different across every organization.
Well, what I was banging my head against with this problem was I couldn't determine ROI on half the people we move, just on their job. I mean, how to determine ROI of a director of accounting, right? How do you determine the ROI of an engineer? I mean, engineers closer. You're getting closer. Revenue generating, sales. Yeah, okay, got it. Run a plant. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to determine the value of an employee and their production.
It's not always qualitative or quantitative, I should say.
Right.
Yeah, it's very qualitative, and that's why I say I think it's really more about looking at your overall mobility strategy than it is really looking at those individual pieces.
And that's what I came back to. I came back to, if you know your company and you know what you're doing in your role, you'll know if you're doing a good job, because it's in your gut. You just feel it. Things are happening, and you just feel it. And nobody wants that answer, because everybody wants to shave. But that's just, in my opinion, what it is. We're running tight on time here. Vinny says, for me, ability to track and be fully compliant with all the business personal travel for our employees. Can't we just put a GPS tracker on each employee and their family members? Can't we chip them? Can't we just put it right in their buttock? Chip them all. Something,
that may make life easier, but maybe perhaps more complex at the same time.
Finding the right talent for that job. We need this chip. Elena Anderson, delay centralized budgeting is a great option when you're trying to have company-wide standards. Oh gosh, I'd love to debate this topic too.
Oh yeah, pros and cons to both. Yeah, pros and cons to the different models. Yeah, absolutely.
So fascinating, Dawn. Thank you, everybody who's chimed in with all your questions and your comments. They've made the show. It's always about you, the viewer. So thank you for getting involved, Dawn. I want to leave you with an opportunity just to kind of give us a final thought.
Oh gosh, I guess I would say again, let's use this platform that's before us to reshape mobility. I think we've never had a better opportunity to do that. Let's all come together and figure it out, and really elevate mobility into a different place. I think we can do that.
I love it. I love the aspirational vision there, Dawn. Dawn, thank you so much for being
You're
with
very
us
welcome.
today.
My pleasure.
Wonderful. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe. Stay happy.
Thank you.
Out there. Thanks to all of you out there who have tuned in today. I can't wait to see y'all next week.